Hi, this is Randy Randall of No Age and host of the podcast Hyphenate with Randy Randall. I want to welcome our newest sponsor of the show, DistroKid. DistroKid helps musicians get their music on all the major streaming platforms, and artists keep 100% of their royalties. Hyphenate listeners get 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate. Again, that's distrokid.com/VIP/HYPHENATE. Go get your music streaming everywhere now. What's happening? Thanks so much for tuning in to Hyphenate with me, Randy Randall. I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Mr. Aaron Farley. Today is Monday, August 26th, in case anybody doesn't know what day today is.
Yep.
How you doing? Did you know what today is?
I do now.
It's a public service, you know?
I use this podcast as a clock, so I only know what day and time it is by when I listen to the podcast. Hopefully it's on the correct day.
The beginning of each podcast, I always make sure to say what day it is. And it's, you know what, usually right.
Yep.
Not always. Most of the time it's wrong, but every once in a while it is correct.
Honestly, you really only have to be right every once in a while.
Exactly. Well, yeah, a broken clock is right twice a day. You know, the confused podcast host is sometimes correct.
It's right
too.
You know, right whenever.
Yeah, it's
is
all
there
relative.
Any correct? Is there any right or wrong, Randy? I mean,
no.
Come on,
yeah, we live in a subjective society. What was I going to? Oh, speaking of like inside baseball on podcasting, I was before we started on the mics, I was saying that that I write a description for each episode. And then it goes out on all the streamers. There's usually a little description underneath, and I try to, with a guest, I put their links to their appropriate socials and web stores and everything. Because I'm sure everybody that listens to this runs right out. First they go to that, they look at the description, and then they click on all the links that I put up there. It takes a good 5 minutes, twice a week to do this kind of thing.
They're like, what can I buy now?
Yes, that's what I often think after I'm done listening to a podcast is I would like to purchase everything the guest has talked about on this podcast right
Amazon
now.
links, please.
Mm-hmm. And instead of just Googling it myself, like the name of the person, instead of just Googling it, I always go to the show description and then click the links in the show description.
Yeah.
Click links in the show description below.
Yeah.
So feel free. Oh, but I was saying, a few months ago, I think I was getting punchy. I was like, I don't think anybody reads these things. It was kind of just like you're writing poetry into the void. They're like, what was the thing? My live journal. I never had one of these things, but that kind of feeling. You're just going to write everything down like in public and just know that nobody reads it ever.
Yeah. But it's better to pretend that everyone cares.
Yes.
Life is more fun that way.
So I think there's an ongoing fan fiction between you and I happening in the description of these things. Like today, Randy and Aaron sit down and discuss, the hot topics of the day. Or whatever. Today, Randy and Aaron waste an hour of everybody's time talking about nothing and contemplating their own aging as they trudge towards the grave.
Slowly trudge towards the grave. Oh my god! Trudging towards the grave with Randy and Aaron.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good. Maybe we need segments. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and maybe people have segments.
Yeah.
Like in today's trudging towards the grave with Randy and Aaron is brought to you by Chewy. Make sure you get pet food for your dogs before they die, because they're going to die before you do. Okay. Yeah. So how's your journey towards the grave today? Well,
speaking of death, I happily woke up this morning.
Woohoo!
Ding, 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 ding.
Yay! All right, that was our segment, trudging towards the grave. Coming up next, I think it's more ways to get sponsors. I think is what you do. You have segments. You can have people present segments. So if anybody would like to sponsor any segments, I mean, we're open. I mean, 50 cents, 10 cents.
Yeah,
we'll start low.
It's like real crime, but it's not exciting, and but it is about people dying. It's just slow.
Yeah, right.
It's like really slow, real crime.
If you think about it, every story is a murder story. It just
eventually
every story ends with somebody dying,
some kind of death. Yeah, which is, that's how it goes. This is part of life. We're coming up to Halloween, so
right, yeah,
so we'll
spooky
have
seasons here.
Dia de los Muertos and all that stuff,
But
Death
in a
will be
much
in
more
the air.
middle-aged sort of like kind of way of horror through middle-aged sort of apathy. Like I should be working out more, I really should be watching, the fats that I eat and walking, but I'm just not.
I mean, I watch them.
The Blumhouse.
I watch them go into my mouth.
Yeah.
I'm watching plenty of fats.
Yeah.
And sugars, mostly sugars.
What's the joke? I'm into fitness burrito into my mouth.
There you go. Hey.
Oh, that's good. I like the idea of this kind of the mundane horror of just everyday life. Like, it's kind of spooky if you really think about it. I mean, everybody we look at now is going to be skeletons soon.
Yeah, eventually.
Sooner
than later.
Or currently we are all skeletons. I mean, that's the real spookiness of it is everybody is a skeleton just with a bunch of meat and skin on.
Just a meat suit. Meat suit over some bones. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's do it. That's another good what do I call them, segment? The meat suit update. How's your meat suit doing? Well, it's sagging a little bit. I gotta take it in the back. The front's getting a little floppy.
Yeah.
The arms don't quite fit right.
They could work on it. I don't know how these muscles work. I don't know how to make them stronger. I keep trying and it just hurts.
Does your meat suit hurt? Buy Advil.
Welcome to Meat Suit, the 15-minute Meat Suit talking podcast.
Yeah, two buckets of meat here, just discussing life.
Yeah,
on this day. It's hot. I'm hot too. My muscles hurt. Me too.
My muscles are hurting.
Hope he was having a good Monday.
Who's the Simpsons character that's
Mole Man?
Oh yeah, there's Mole Man, and then there's who's the kid that's always like my cat's breath smells like cat food.
Oh, Ralph. Yeah, I bet my Wookiee.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a mix.
I saw your dad go into a restaurant, and then he ate all the food at the restaurant, and then the restaurant had to close.
I feel like a mix between Ralph and Mole Man most of the time, and then every once in a while, Ned Flanders.
Oakley dokley on the good days.
Oakley dokley. Do you ever? How often? Okay, so I was actually just thinking about this on Friday.
Okay, let's get serious about this. Yes.
Yeah, this is serious. This is like serious context.
No goofing around.
How often do you? You're walking around in the world in your meat suit, just taking in the day,
hanging out like you do. Yeah.
And you turn around and you see someone who looks exactly like a cartoon character, like a specific cartoon character. So I was talking to someone on Friday. I won't mention who it was. But I looked and I was like, God, he looks.
It was not your boss at work.
Familiar.
No one in a position of power.
No.
Yeah.
And he looked familiar. And I was like, what is something about his nose? And then like his face. And then I looked and I'm like, oh my God, he looks like he has the nose and the like chin and mouth of Butthead from Beavis and Butthead. But he was like a totally normal looking guy. Totally like, but I was just like, there's something about him. And I was like, oh my God, if he went as Butthead for Halloween, it would be a spitting image. Perfect spitting image. And then I realized
that sounds frightening.
Like,
because Beavis has the underbite, like the big thing comes out.
Yeah, Beavis has
right?
But Butthead has the nostrils.
Oh, the flared up in the
nostrils
gums.
that are always like this.
Yeah.
And then there's the kind of flared, like the gums. I don't know, the teeth and gums.
That's
just
unique.
A little bit, and then the small, like a kind of a small chin. And I was just looking at him going, and then I couldn't focus on what he was saying because I was like, oh my God. If someone would have said, "Oh yeah, Mike Judge knew this guy when he was growing up," and like it would have been him, but not the hair. And he was a total straight laced guy, like with the collar and the whole thing. So he wasn't like,
but he had a butthead mouth. I like him just fine. He's
the
a nice
whole
guy,
face,
but he has
like
a
even
butthead
kind
mouth.
of a big forehead a little bit.
Oh, whoa.
So I almost am
Oh.
trying. I'm now
If
going to
you're-
try to figure out where he grew up and see if he grew up next to Mike Judge, or if he knows him.
Will there be an opportunity for you to sneak a picture of said person for private use only?
I could
I'd love to
probably.
see.
I could probably.
Or find a picture online.
I could.
Okay,
I could
we
probably
won't
find
put it
one.
out there, but at least
No.
I'd like to.
You
I'd like
and
to
I
see a
can
real
talk
life
about it.
butthead.
But
Yeah,
has
well,
that ever?
there was that.
Because I think about like Ned Flanders, like all of those
Oh,
characters
yeah.
that are so specific. You know that situation. I mean, I was also in another situation like a couple of weeks ago. You know, this is a different situation, but this new teaching job that I'm in,
Oh yeah.
I still feel like a completely different. Like my life is now so different in every single way that I still just feel like I'm kind of walking through someone else's body a little bit.
It hasn't
Because
quite fit your image of yourself. Like, am I really this guy?
or just going like, whoa, wow, I just like it's like a double feature at the movies, and you go to see Alien, and then the next double feature is like the SpongeBob movie. But you're just sitting in the same seat, and then like 20 minutes later, you're just in a different movie, but you're the same guy, but you're just going, wow, it's a different feeling. This is weird. So I was at this
Like, what's happening now?
the beginning thing for, like you go to all this preschool, like pre-teacher stuff, like the week before school starts.
Yeah. The real work.
So there's just a lot of meetings and learning the like computer stuff and, all the new kind of like teaching lingo, and people come in and talk. But it really is like some of the stuff is like the very G-rated version of like what was the Paul Thomas Anderson film with Tom Cruise where he's like the motivational speaker? Is it Paul Thomas Anderson?
Oh, yeah, Magnolia.
Yeah, but he's like super
obey the
intense.
cock.
Yeah. So if you took that like but like when everybody's in the, or whatever, Tony Robbins, like you watch the Tony Robbins thing, he comes out and everyone's like, whoa, and you got all these people and everyone's kind of like doing their, they're in their groups and they're getting psyched and all this, and I'm there just going, I've never done this. I've never been to a thing like this ever. And it's very like uplifting. Like it's very, everybody's kind of like,
of course. Yeah.
Getting in.
Frank TJ Mackey. That's his character.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to look it up. Yes.
But it is not, what I was involved with was not like that. It's a very G-rated, very like, what you would think. And then, but it got me thinking of like, oh, right. Like all the people that wrote all those movies and all those characters started at a place like this, or started at a job, and we're like, we're going to get everybody together and do a trust falls or whatever, like all that. And then it was the one person that just went, oh wait, there's a movie here. Hold on a second. I'm going to look around and find some characters. I'm going to base my characters off these people, and then I'm going to go forward. And it just reminded me that every time you see a movie, probably a character in that movie, especially the really quirky ones, are actually based off a real person.
Oh, yeah.
Started from a real person.
Yeah.
And so then even I'm like, well, cartoons have to be even crazier, because then if you're an artist and we know some illustrators, amazingly creative people, and also they can draw whatever they want. So then they can like see someone and go, ooh, I want that. That's the chin I'm looking for. I need that. That's the chin I'm looking to draw from my character.
We got it.
Or, like Kramer from Seinfeld is famously based off of that one, whoever that guy
Kenny
was.
Kramer.
Yeah, Kenny Kramer.
Larry David's neighbor.
Right. Yeah. And it really got me thinking that when you see those people, you're like, that might be the guy. That might be the person that grew up with the person.
The basis.
Like it's so close to that cartoon character. I got to look it up. I got to see if they grew up next to each other.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I like the idea of a film about the early years of a motivational speaker when they're not good at it yet.
Yeah.
That sounds really fun in the way of like, like you'd start with like, hey, with the big convention center, like, hey, 10,000 people, I'm the richest guy in the world, Tony Robbins type figure. But it's like, but it wasn't always this way. You start out like as a kid, like, guys, can we all just boom, and then gets hit in the face, or can we just, like, I think if we tap into our inner potential, then it doesn't quite work, and then just the stumbling and not being an ineffective motivational speaker, a not good motivational speaker, sounds like a great character.
Unmotivating speaker,
right? Yeah, well, because you figure everybody starts somewhere, and they're probably not good.
And you slowly get moved. You slowly move down the ladder to like grade school,
or then you see the origins of like all like the dumb like sayings and catchphrases, or like the program, the system. See, I got 4 points, and then you see later like, okay, it's 14 points, and then later it's like, oh well, it came down to, okay, now it's just 4 points. There was all those other 10 points you didn't need. Okay, but you see like the root of it all, like pick, like some famous thing they say, like this is your orange glow moment, and then go back to something when he's has a concussion from falling off a thing, like that's the orange glow, that's where I found it, or just horrible embarrassing failures.
You got to find the thing that sticks.
Right, or just how do these people make them? Because if nothing, I mean, I feel like that's the like closest thing we have to like accepted con men. You know what I mean? Like this like accepted, well, outside of Donald Trump or something. But this idea of like these we know these people are full of shit, but everybody like gives them a pass because it's kind of entertaining.
Well, it's like the TED Talk thing,
right? Yeah,
right. Like but even then, like it's like it's like a little bit of stand-up comedy mixed with like it's like a one-man show, one-woman show, and there's like you've got your hour, or you've got your half an hour, and it's just like you're taking that motivation, that the same thing from TED Talks and everything else, but you're applying it to whatever your audience is. So if you're talking to a bunch of teachers, you're going to put a bunch of like school kind of that stuff in, but you could probably make that same motivational talk for corporate. You probably have your corporate one too that takes like all of the student stuff out, and it puts in like mailroom workers or whatever. but it is interesting because it works, and people like to be in those rooms. They're like, you know what? I don't care if this person's even really telling me the truth. This feels good. I like feeling good. I'm going to like put my hands up and like throw balloons around and be like, whoa, this is amazing. And then everyone leaves and they go, oh, I hate these things.
It's funny. I'm thinking back to the motivation, to the Magnolia thing. I wonder, and I haven't read anything about this, but I'm just curious, just based on Paul Thomas Anderson's like body of work, like how long after meeting Tom Cruise and working with him in Magnolia did he have the idea for The Master? Like the film he does is basically like a takedown of Scientology, kind of like the unglamorous version of of Scientology. Was it like within like 2 weeks of like meeting Tom Cruise, like, oh shit, this guy.
It's like, wow,
he's off. He believes in aliens, and he's trying to convince me. He's suddenly so charming. He's trying to get me to give all my money to this church. Like, I need to find out more about it. Do you know the story? There was an artist who did like the paintings and kind of animations at the beginning of Punch Drunk Love.
Okay.
Do you know about this person?
No, I don't know this at all.
I don't want to be apocryphal. I should look up more about it, but apparently the artist was kind of an abstract artist, and
is that the Adam Sandler movie Punch Drunk Love? Yeah, right. Okay.
Jeremy Blake.
Okay.
So he had some type of Scientology fallout and kind of came to bad ends.
Okay. Seems to happen.
I guess so. Here we go. Blake. So his girlfriend committed suicide shortly after they made the film and stuff. He did the work on that, but he was an artist. But he and his girlfriend were being followed and harassed by Scientologists prior to his disappearance. Blake also included, this is just from Wikipedia, Blake also included allegations and harassment by Scientologists in a 27-page chronicle he prepared for a lawsuit he planned to file. And I think the artist disappeared, maybe was considered a suicide. Well, Blake's body, oh my God, yeah. His body was found by fishermen in the waters off New Jersey. Blake's cause of death was presumed to be suicide by drowning. So I feel like between like meeting Tom Cruise and then knowing this artist who was like harassed by Scientologists, and then like the founder comes out, right? Where it's just this kind of like takedown of Scientology. I don't know.
Or the master.
Or the master, right?
Master,
yeah.
Right?
Master. Oh yeah. Oh, he also did the images for Beck's album Sea Change. Kind of this like kind of abstract sort of like rainbow sort of color palette.
Yeah. And Beck famously.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's more. We could put this in the
allegedly.
Right. Allegedly, all these things.
Allegedly.
Right,
allegedly.
And then David Berman, the frontman for the band Silver Jews, wrote a song called "My Pillow Is the Threshold" for Blake after Duncan's suicide. So I don't know. All right, if you're going to get into conspiracy theories here, as we are likely to do.
Yeah.
Scientology is a great place to
to start. Oh my God.
If you're interested in conspiracy theories, Scientology often will come up in the conversation.
Yeah, it just happens to be. I mean, it just happens to be there. It just happens to be on the internet under like very
designed for these kinds of conversations.
Conspiracy. Yes.
Anyway, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think they're coming after us at some point.
Oh my God. I got into all of those. Speaking of conspiracy conspiracies. I don't know if this is even a conspiracy. It's just history. But the beginnings of JPL. Have you ever read anything
these are great.
about that?
Oh my God, of course.
Oh, so that's how I
Parsons?
Yeah, Jack Parsons.
Yeah.
But it's
that's
funny
great.
that they call it the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, but it was Jack Parsons. The JPL was for Jack Parsons originally.
Yeah.
But when you get into all of those, please, everybody, just
Aleister
look it
Crowley,
up.
The sex orgies,
but also
the
Scientology
between the houses of
L. Ron Hubbard was part of that group of people, and they were all this group of people, and they have like the Devil's Gate there in Pasadena, like the bridge that you go over, and they used to do all of their nighttime rituals and all that stuff there, like which is where JPL ended up being, like right up the river from that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then they're like, and those guys, I mean, this wasn't even that long ago. What, the 30s, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, coming up on almost 100 years ago. I mean, it's
but I mean, not that long ago when I started looking into it. It was only 70 years old. But
it's great.
That when you think about that, they were like building rockets in their, I mean, their quote unquote laboratory half the time was just like their garage. They all lived in Pasadena in those weird little houses. And supposedly you can just still go find, you probably know the address where Jack Parsons' house is in Pasadena. It wouldn't surprise me.
No,
you'd be like, you haven't driven by that place?
Oh, yeah,
I went by there yesterday. Right after I went to the ET house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which I went to after you told me about, which was awesome. I took Lila
amazing,
there.
Right?
Yeah.
But the idea of, I mean, if you get into like the metaphysics of what these guys did is, they were defying the laws of gravity. They were through fire and explosions. I mean, I think in some way communing with some type of darker energy or darker magic in this effort to, Icarus-like flight, of like to be really the first human beings on Earth to break the bonds of gravity could in some ways, be looked upon, as some type of dark art and the power of flight, and all these kinds of things, but all through explosions and fire and combustion and all this sort of stuff. I think there's something almost poetic in it in that way, or at least, romantic in that sort of sense of like conjuring spirits to break the bonds of man's shackles to the earthly form, from dust to the stars. I think there's something about that. And I think they were obviously open to those ideas, if not, directly seeking help from such things, you know what I mean? But also, it's the ties of sort of apocalypse and, man's ruin and those types of things too. You know what I mean? This idea of, like from rockets, you get not only space flight and these types of things and space, travel going to the moon, but also you get intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Yeah.
You go from dropping bombs to being able to launch bombs,
Yeah.
in ways of defense or aggression and sort of stuff. And so I think, that if you tie it all back into this larger sort of sense of pre-war and then post-war sort of American military and technology, and to know that it was all sort of centered around a bunch of, sex addict Satanists up in
crazy, which is
hills.
Crazy.
Yeah. and then you sprinkle in some Nazis, post-war, some Oppenheimers, and Werner von Braun into
Project
the mix.
Paperclip, what's it called? Project
right,
Paperclip,
yeah, exactly.
or whatever.
Yeah, you guys, your politics suck, but your science is right. If we get you out of here, can we get some of that science over on our side?
Yeah, I mean, you weren't really involved in that with that guy anyway, were you? We're gonna put you into our government. We're gonna have you write some papers for us. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Well, I mean, it'll be fine. We'll change your last name just a little bit.
If you drive a Porsche or a Volkswagen or wear Adidas shoes, I mean, there's lots of you don't want to dig too far back in history.
Yeah,
you're a fan of any type of postmodern European design.
Yeah, any kind of I mean, a good amount of things coming out of Europe pre-World War II don't have the best history involved. I mean, would you like to talk about the banking system?
No, absolutely not. No, I would not. If Scientology doesn't get us, then there's nothing else is going to get us. But I do think it's funny about cartoon people. Yes. I do often find cartoon faces.
You do,
and it's one of those kinds of things of you're like, of course, it has to relate to something that's kind of normal, but also kind of it's like a caricature. We got we went to Santa Cruz a couple weekends ago, and we got we got one of those big like caricatures done on the boardwalk.
Yeah,
with like the big head and like tiny body surfing on a wave, or with that style of caricature we did as the whole family, and it's incredible. You know what I mean? It looks vaguely like all of us. There's the shape of things, there's the stuff, but I always have my reading glasses usually hanging out of my shirt now as I age, as I shuffle off this mortal coil. And then I also had my sunglasses because I was getting dark towards the day. So I had like two pairs of glasses there. And then at the end, I just realized she like put like, the dad with two pairs of sunglasses hanging off his chest. And then, right, I had a Star Wars shirt on. She put that on there. Just the little things, and then just the kind of shape of the faces and everything. I was like, that's incredible. It really does. You know what I mean? Like this woman is just all day long is just trying to get the shape and the character and enough defining characteristics to kind of just put a shadow of personhood into this thing, a character into there.
Well, there must be like 5 or 6 versions of each part of your face that they can just go, okay, do they have the wide nose or the skinny nose? Okay. Do they have big nostrils or little nostrils? Okay. Do they have full lips, or do they have kind of skinny lips? They have a big mouth or a little mouth. And like eventually everybody, I mean, I guess it shows that you can like make yourself into an emoji, and most of the time, although I've tried that and there was not an emoji that just looked like normal white guy with a like slightly unshaven beard that would look
I
like
find that hard to believe. I feel like most of the emojis would look like that.
No, I tried, but it was like the beard would look really thick, or it would look like it was like a goatee. And it was like, I tried a couple times. I could not, option. And I'm like, I think I'm like too normal looking to even like come up with an emoji where people are like, oh, that just looks like, is that just the white guy emoji? Or is that you? No.
Kind of a round yellow face with a big like line for a mouth. You kind of just look like a regular smiley face guy. I don't know. I see you everywhere.
Just use the one with the 2 dots and the smiley face. It's gonna work better.
It's perfect.
That's awesome though.
Yeah, it was really but it's a funny idea. I've definitely, I'll see people and you realize like too, there's like those early Looney Tunes things again. But I think it all comes back to history too. Of like, there were certain types of almost like stereotypes that a lot of these things played off of that are probably incorrect or insensitive to a modern audience. So I think there's, it's interesting living. We live in the shadows and echoes of past times in those, and it's similar to like a JPL or all these things, we benefit from whatever happened that wasn't necessarily correct, but I don't think, but again, it becomes part of that cultural fabric that I think, we're definitely good at in 2024, whatever year this is.
What's that? Forgetting the past?
No, of examining the past, or examining the present with an eye towards an etymology or like a history, a balance sheet. Like, is our balance sheet clean today? Like, based on what we take for granted as part of our systematic, daily existence, systematic racism, all these kinds of things, or just generative norms of things, So I think, but if you look at cartoons and it's like, they have all these like little disclaimers, but again, the front of, I don't know if you've seen any of the stuff on Disney Plus, like the old cartoons, they'll have like the use of tobacco, insensitive characters, just descriptions. And I remember there was a great intro that I think Whoopi Goldberg did in early aughts or late 90s of like some of the old Warner Brothers cartoons. And like, it was like, this is racist, now. It was racist then. It doesn't just, racism just didn't start, but these are also important texts for the history of America and American cinema and American animation, and we can't ignore the racism that was all part of all that stuff. And I was like, ooh, this is kind of interesting.
You can't just you can't just erase it, but it does need to be recontextualized.
Well, in the sense of like, that what does the culture gain from re-editing the history? It's like, it's almost, you know what I mean? It honors the people who suffered and who were marginalized, if not worse, by understanding this is where it was, and to also know what not to do. Where not to go, because if you take it away, then it's that like it never existed. I think there's a danger in that as well. Like, and then as it happens again, it's like, this is the first time this ever happened. Like, why didn't nobody tell me about this? It's like, oh no, and as an educator, I think it's a big part of passing, the history, or sort of just understanding the culture down to children, and like understand like, no, these were bad then, they're bad now, but this is man's inhumanity to man, and if you're not careful, it can happen tomorrow. All these things, there's a reason why you learn the history of not only your own culture, but multiple cultures and multiple time periods.
Well, totally. And you could see it, in the last, 5 years politically, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, that, certain states have been trying to lessen the history of slavery and being like, well, we actually have to teach the economics of the time period and like all of that stuff and lessen the brutality of everything. Mm-hmm. And then the kids that come out of there come out and go like, well, of course it was bad, but you have to understand the times, and like, you have to be able to look past it and, all these things. And you're like, okay, no, this is not good.
That's not good. Yeah.
Because you don't have to look past it. You have to take as much information as you can about the past. And yes. And they say like, well, you're doing the same thing with taking statues down. I'm like, no, that's different. Cause those statues were put up in the 50s to cement the idea that slavery was good. Like those.
Yeah. There were totems of oppression by celebrating an antebellum world.
And that's also not history. Yeah. That's like a statue, right?
It's not like what you live with reality. Today. It's a daily, thing you
and it's not reality.
With.
It's like I don't know what it is. Like, it's like a piece of fake history. It's like putting up a painting and then going like, this is what history was like. You're like, nah, it's a painting. That's not history. History is like what's in the books and what's on the ledgers and what was written about and who came over on the boat or who was brought over on the boats and who got their names taken and who, it's like all of those kind of things. And it's like, awful, horrible, the worst thing ever. But the more that you actually learn about it, hopefully the newer generations will go, oh, this maybe we have still a lot of those economic systems in place today, lesser so like politically or whatever, but that you can see that here's what it was like in the 1860s. Then here's what happened in the 1880s. Then here's what happened in the 1890s. Then and you can actually see that. But if you just go, no, we don't talk about the 1860s actually, and then we also don't talk about the 1890s because that was horrible. So we're gonna skip over that. And now look, everything's good, man. We got this great economy. There's people of all races on television. We're fixed. Yeah. Right?
Don't look into private prisons.
Yeah.
Modern prisons, work prison systems.
Yes. These are not things we learn about today, Randy. We do not learn about these are horrible things, and let's just pretend they don't happen.
Yes. I have two thoughts but bouncing around in my brain. The are you familiar with the Disney two-finger point? The you don't at Disneyland, like you don't point with one finger. Because it's seen as being rude. If someone asks you where the bathroom is and you're a cast member at Disneyland or Disney World or any of these Disney properties, you point with two fingers. It's seen as a politer
because
point.
It's not like, okay.
It's not like you go there to go take this. It's an authoritarian kind of single finger point. As far as I understand, being a former cast member from, the 90s, go 98 Tomorrowland redo. It comes from a lot of the pictures of Walt when he was at Disneyland. He would point with two fingers, but it wasn't because he was being polite. It's because he had a cigarette between his two fingers because Walt's always smoked.
Oh my God.
And so all the pictures of Walt at Disneyland, he's pointing like, oh yeah, that's where the trees are going to go over there. The castle's over on that side. And yeah, it's over here. So, you got to go that way. If you want to get to there, he'd always point with the two fingers because he always had a cigarette.
That's amazing.
But what they've done is there's a great statue, partner statue. I think it's in there. And there's other statues and other pictures. They've erased the cigarette from Walt's hands in these memorial depictions of him. So now you literally see him pointing with two fingers. And there's pictures of Walt in the parks, with pointing with two fingers, and because they've digitally retouched or optically retouched and took the cigarette out of all of his fingers. So you end up with these types of funny perversions of history that what I mean. That's like it's an unclear, what is going. And again, that's a very benign type of revisionist history to that sort of thing, but it lives on based upon a lie. And I think obviously you don't have to dig too far to see lots of examples of that culturally and politically.
Like people think they can just remove the cigarette out of every bad idea and be like, no, it's not the actual idea. It was just the cigarette. It was the little. It was
you're offended by the cigarette. We'll take the detail.
Just take the cigarette away, and look, everything's fine now. You can't see the cigarette anymore. Although it'd be funny if they made you point, but you had to have like a pen in your hand or something
some
like
type
that.
Of
like now it's a writing utensil. It's a positive thing. They're
a lollipop.
They're writing down. Exactly.
A stylus,
a churro,
for your BlackBerry.
A churro has to be a churro.
You could buy Walt's prop cigarettes. Those bubblegum cigarettes at the park. Walt.
You can only point with the turkey leg.
Yeah, that's it. Right, the turkey leg.
Yeah, every time.
You're gonna find the turkey leg everywhere.
Speaking of Disney, you guys ended the podcast with like a 2-minute like Disney tease. I do think that you guys need to do like maybe a quarterly Disney
check-in.
Oh
my God!
Or maybe like a live, like you guys could do live, like go on rides together. next time he's in town,
in California. Yeah. I would check in. Like, oh my God, I love it. I mean,
I'm
obsessed. I'm obsessed with Disney history, the Disney current things. I don't know. It's as I've gotten older, I think I've really hardened and cemented into my sort of Disney academia. Not necessarily with the uncritical eye of everything, but I think as a barometer of news and economics and political stories, like being a Disney watcher or a Disney sort of observer is an interesting way it's an interesting way in, in some, deranged fashion of watching the world and how it plays out, because it's a strange, weird company, but that holds a lot of like little memories and fondness for me. But also, the way it interacts with the world today is very unique.
Well, yeah, I mean, all like the fact that they became like the political kind of whipping post for politics, like in the
DeSantis in
last
Florida, yeah, he really went after him, and it was
2
great to
days,
sort of see that. Yeah,
or 5 years ago, probably, maybe even more. But that has now just become like all of these people are like, oh, well, of course, Disney. And like, Disney? Wait, we're really worrying
Disney's your
about
leftist woke,
like Disney, like one
liberal
of the
company.
biggest money-making conglomerate corporations of all time is that's the communist left that you're talking about? This is the most corporate right wing, like not right wing politically, but
capitalist,
like capitalist,
yeah,
corporate, capitalist American company that maybe has ever existed ever as an entertainment company.
And they're your harbinger for hippies living on a commune in a farm.
I'm like, way to really like branch out on what the horrible things with this country. You're worried about like the princesses in Frozen or whatever. And I'm like, all right, go for it. You know what you guys complain about Disney and how they're like ruining everybody's lives with their constant positive affirmations. Go
background,
for it.
Background characters of same sex maybe are hugging at the end of a film. Oh God, what was the hell in a handbasket?
Oh my God. I'm so. I will never watch Disney. You're like, all right, good luck. Good luck finding. Although there are some other good children's cartoons now, like Bluey. Do you guys watch Bluey?
On Disney Plus, you mean?
Oh, is that a Disney?
It was created in Australia with a BBC backing, but it's distributed, worldwide by Disney Plus.
Aren't the Simpsons on Disney Plus now too?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and all Star Wars
acquisition. Lucasfilms, yeah. Marvel,
amazing.
This comic books and all of it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Disney as a juggernaut with a not sheeple-eyed view, or whatever you want to say, without having any kind of critical thought and observing how Disney operates, quarterly or whatever annually. It's a fascinating picture of America and culture across the board.
Yeah,
for so many reasons. But the other thing I was going to say, which is in talking about like the erasure or books and banning books or this or that, like I felt like I was a pretty leftist progressive sort of person, and I was having a conversation with a middle school teacher friend of ours, and she was sat on the panel or the board of the library and the books, and think, what do we do? Here's obviously banning books is terrible. You don't want to have banned books. No, of course not. No, this is and it's here she's in Southern California, and like okay, similar kind of the idea of politics. And kids need to know you can't delete history, all this stuff. And then she was kind of just relaying the story to me, and I thought, I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly. Read everything. It's great. Yep. And then it was they're looking at the curriculum for sixth grade or seventh and eighth grade curriculum. Yeah. What are the books? Because again, there's one thing to ban books. There's another thing to see what books are celebrated, which are acceptable, and which ones are like mandatory. Like, oh no, you're gonna read this book as part of a curriculum. There's a spectrum there, right? It's like no books are banned. Read whatever you want to read. Information is free. You got to use your brain, use it. However, we're going to point out 4 books. You're like, oh, gee, of the millions of important literature books. But here's, for this age, we're going to call out just 4 of them. And so then that opens up a whole other can of worms of not just, well, is this book good? What does this teach? What are the lessons? What are we looking academically, culturally? And what does that mean in contemporary society and moving forward, And one of the books that was on the list was To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm like, I love that book. That's a great book. It's empathy. It's all these things. And it's classic. Oh yeah, you can't get rid of that one. And then she kind of did that. Well, you look at the story, it's really the story of a white savior, that it's a story of of a persecuted black man, but he has no agency. Boo Radley is not really a character in the story. He's the specter. He's the victim or the victimizer, but it's really seen from the lawyer, from Atticus Finch's perspective, as saving the black man, and how he has the power, and isn't he great? Isn't he the hero? And in terms, qualifications of racism and that, and it was written, however many decades ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
And that said something to the people at that time.
Probably
and it was also formatted in a way that spoke to people at that time and was acceptable. But it's one of these sort of stories. It's like, is that really what we want to teach our kids today? To celebrate the white lawyer who goes after one person who was wrongly accused of something?
Yeah. Are there new versions of that story that are written from
where Boo Radley is the main character, and where he deals with it, and it's his story, and it's his ability to navigate racism, and he has a point of view, and he's a character, and he can speak for himself. Right. He's allowed some kind of agency or growth or perspective, a point of view. And it was just like, I was shook. It was one of those moments of like, oh God, I'd never engaged with this dialogue. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Part of me's, and again, it's not saying it's a bad book. It shouldn't be read. It's an incredible book. It's a piece of literature. It's a part of, American culture, and it's a great film, and it's important as a conversation for all those reasons. However, if you have to pick 4 books, is that one of the 4? Is there a better version of that? Or
and maybe
it's something else.
And maybe the context of reality and what we expect out of education is different now. And that's also okay. I think that there's there's so much like that people often get very frustrated with the gray area of everything, and being like, oh, now we're going to ban To Kill a Mockingbird. Right. No. Now this is where, and you're like, no, that's actually not at all. What we're saying is that as we advance as civilizations, hopefully the context in which we are living and the ideas that we form are based off of old ideas, and we decide whether those old ideas still work. And if they need to change, we don't have to pretend they never happened. But we can build off of those and go like, we love the thoughts and the idea of that story as it was written at that time. Do we have an idea are there books, which I could almost guarantee that there are, that deal with that same type of story, but from a more nuanced perspective? Probably. Maybe we should just look for that one. Or multiples. And I think you're right. And I think it's so funny to hear everybody, whatever politically, like, oh, California. And you're like, oh, okay. Do you guys know how big California is? I mean, like, I drive from the mountains. I drive 1 hour to work. I drive from 1 mile high down the road. Then I drive through like 4 different small cities, very different economic backgrounds between Highland, San Bernardino, and Redlands, and then all the way out to Beaumont. I drive past multiple goat and cow farms. I drive.
You mean communist left-wing goats?
Communist left-wing goats. I drive past an Amazon warehouse. Then I go and I turn at the high school, go by some really beautiful soccer fields, a bunch of apartment buildings, and then I get to school, right? I'd probably drive through like 10 different political districts, voting districts, red, blue, purple, whatever. Like homeless, like if I can't get on the freeway, I have to go I go through a park that has like probably 250 unhoused people living there, and a really rough area of San Bernardino. And then like 5 blocks past that, I'm at like really not like go past a golf course. So it's like, especially Southern California, it is so diverse. It is such a crazy place. And that even where I'm at, right? I'm in a rural district, and where I student taught last year, rural district. rural. The kids are
Rural juror.
like rural juror. I'm a rural juror.
That was my favorite 30 Rock
Yeah,
jokes.
the rural juror.
Rural juror.
But it really is like up here, there's like 10,000 people total. I think we pull from 20,000. I don't even think 20, but from the whole district is I don't know, 10,000 or something. And then the new district I'm at is like, I don't know, 30,000. But, it's like there's kids wearing the Trump hats, and there's like super liberal, like, open gay students, and they're like, this is everything. Right. So then when you hear all these people like the world is coming to an end and California and it's just like, stop, just stop. You're driving yourself nuts thinking that the world is just not full of a bunch of completely different weirdos.
Yeah.
Everyone is crazy.
All sides are weird. People are
all
weird.
Of us, because we choose to be normal because that's what we have to do to exist day to day in groups of people, right? You have to be like, how do I not stand out as much as possible and get my work done and then go home? But really, when you dig down into it, and every kid is like, I like to wear 2 different color socks. Yeah, that's awesome, but don't tell anybody, right? Or it's like,
yeah,
I'm like, I don't want to tell anyone I love Taylor Swift. Okay, cool. And then it gets like weirder.
You've been the most popular entertainer on earth. Don't let anybody know.
Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah,
but not if you're like, all your friends like metal.
If you're not allowed.
Not like,
yeah.
Right? But like,
and there's somebody out there who says, don't tell my friends I like Metallica because everybody likes Taylor Swift. You know what I mean? It's like, 100%. You guys swap social groups. It's okay.
But everybody has these weird little quirks, and they're totally different. But then also, and this is what I noticed about in LA, like, the group of people that we were in, everybody is probably lefty and but everybody talked about politics a lot. Every time I get out of the city or up here or wherever, rarely do people even bring it up. It was like, I don't know. Nobody talks about it. And even like outside of town, outside of the city, or at school or whatever, it's like, you don't even know. And everybody's just like, I don't know, man. I'm just trying to get through this life. Can we just not talk about this? I'm going to just vote for some people, and either things are going to change, they're not going to change, or maybe they will, maybe they won't. I hope my retirement doesn't get smaller. And this is pretty much it. This is like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, I feel like there's so much of that, like, when did we start talking about every single thing that we believed in all the time? I feel like that started like with cable news. Like before that, I don't know if people, like, there wasn't enough information to be like, wait, what are we voting on? Like, where did you even find information like that? Like the
I
newspaper?
still don't think there's enough. I think it's purposefully hidden and obtuse and overly written. It's like legal documents and contracts. Like, you know what I mean? They're constructed in a way to not be understandable.
Yeah,
right. I think there's still a large swath of that, and that operates in its own classist, fiscally stratospheric sort of way, a caste system of like, can you read a contract? Well, then pay somebody who knows how to read a contract.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
And you'll never even know if they're reading it or not.
Yeah, but I paid a guy to tell me this is in my best interest. But did you read it? No. Okay. That's, you know what I mean? It's to the degree of that sort of world of like, there's other languages that are spoken on the different echelons of power, and that's part of how power is held, is by keeping people misinformed or uninformed, and or questioning their ability to understand. Like, is it even worth understanding? And like, at the end of the day, right? It's bread and circus. It's, you just want to be entertained and fed. As long as you're hungry and not bored, then maybe a little bit of religion in there for good measure.
Yeah,
you'll be fine.
Let's have some fun. Let's build some rockets.
A little food. Yeah.
Build some rockets. Try to get out of the atmosphere. It's like everybody has their thing.
Yeah. I just, the biggest thing that I am curious about, and especially as fathers, I think I wonder how your kids deal with this, is the sense of hope in the future. I'm curious how this plays out. Where we didn't necessarily have a hopeful future in the '80s, and there was a kind of this sort of Terminator 2 esque sort of nihilism
Yeah.
of like, oh well, dystopian futures are on sale every weekend. You go to the video store and rent 10 different videos with dystopian futures.
Yeah.
But it always seemed so far away and so far fetched. But also with that also brought the idea of like weird science. You could make a girl out of a computer. Like technology could be used for good too.
Yeah.
I'm not clear. It's unclear to me now, I guess, with the age of my kids and sort of as I progress and to really put myself in their shoes to understand what they think of the future. Do they have a hopeful idea of the future, or is it bleak on a level that is detrimental or negative to their own sort of development as people? How do your kids ever talk about it, or like
I
do you
don't
get a sense of
know
their perspective or point of view, what they think?
I don't know. I mean, they're still just at home all the time. Like even Lila goes out with her friends now more. She's 15, almost 16. But like I think young people are
Don't really have a view
interested.
Of it. It's not a concern.
Yeah, because they don't have any like, unless they've had to deal with really heavy stuff, which I mean a lot of kids have, and I feel like those kids probably worry about the future more. Like because if everything is bad at home now,
catastrophizing,
like
it's all
kind of like, well, the world must just be this way. I feel like there's that like dealing with going through trauma, obviously. But I think for the majority of the kids in that age that I've talked to, I think like the future is like next week, or like next month,
it's already here,
or college, thinking about college. But like there's so many of those like day-to-day stressors, and they're so informed, like they're so dealing with, they have their classes. You have 6 different classes a day, and then maybe you play sports, maybe you don't, or you play music, or you have an activity, and then you come home and you do a little bit of homework, and then you go to bed, and then you do it again the next day. And I think you're so taken up with the now that I don't know.
The idea of climate change or fires or natural disasters or general like mankind's destroying of the earth through
like they
microplastics or all these things, whatever the catastrophe, whatever normal thing of the week.
I mean, there's definitely kids that have like that do the like climate group at school and talk about that stuff. But I think that that's a little bit of like, I don't know if it's real.
Make the world a better place. Yeah.
I don't know if it's real or if it's like you're like, oh, I like those people who do those things, so I'm gonna like try to figure out how to be like that because that feels good. But I don't know if there's a real sense when you're that young to actually have a view of what the future even is, or like what an adult even is. Like adults just look like these big old people. Right. I mean, that's what I always keep thinking. I'm like, these kids see me and think I'm so old. Like, because I remember thinking my teachers were so old in like middle school, and I look back in like the old yearbooks or whatever, and I'm like, oh my god, that guy was like 25, like 30, maybe 30, and I'm like, I'm almost 50. Like I must look like a grandpa to half of them. They're just, well, one of my kids said the other day that their grandma was 37. And I was like, wait, your grandma? Yeah, it's a lot of stuff going on, whatever. I'm like, wow. So wait, I'm like 10 years older than your grandma. So to you, I'm like your great grandpa age almost. And it was like, to me that's so mind-blowing, because I really feel like I'm just like this kid who just started teaching, and I'm like new. I'm like, nope, I'm one of the oldest people here. You're actually like, on campus, I'm probably in the top like 15% of the oldest people on
That's
campus.
hilarious. You're in your mind, you're like Amy Sedaris from Strangers with Candy. You're like a 50-year-old, like
Totally.
16-year-old kid, like,
Yeah.
hey, what's up, kids?
Hey, kids. Or
Hey,
like
what's going on? Steve Buscemi.
Steve
from
Buscemi
30
with the
Rock, like,
skateboard.
hello,
Yeah.
hello, fellow children. Like,
hello, fellow children. Who wants to go skateboarding?
Yeah.
I definitely feel like that. But then I remember, I'm like, oh wait, no, they see me as old. Get in your chair.
Yeah.
And they're like, whoa.
Quiet down. It's too loud in here.
Whoa.
Take it down a notch.
Why is that old guy yelling?
Yeah.
That must be hard for him with his lungs, his old lungs. How's he yell so loud?
Yeah. I think about it, like, in the sense of, I mean, like, like one generation, wanted to grow up to go to the moon. Next generation wanted to grow up, to make computers, the computers were the way forward, like, oh yeah, when we're older, we're going to have flying cars, or we're going to have this. And whether or not any of those things came true, it was more the motivation or the sort of the dream of a generation of like, here's where the future is headed.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the sense. I think what marks me as feeling old is I don't know what that feels or looks like to the younger generation or the generations coming next. Because I kind of I think about, like, in 50 years, I'm going to be dead. Like in 50, but in 50 years, what are my kids thinking about? What do they think is it going to be like? And I've kind of, I've aged to the point where, like, flying cars, who gives a fuck? Internet, who cares? You're zip zapping around the universe. It's great. It's cool. I mean, it sounds fun. I don't know. I don't have that type of, if I had to say one of the markers that makes me understand my age is, like, it's unimportant. The future is not as important to me at this minute.
I think that's interesting, because I do think that the one thing that's different that I see about this generation, as opposed to the last, like, post-war generations, is how close the kids are to their parents. Like, our kids talk to us like we're not friends, but like, they send me memes. They're like Lila's,
they're
like,
not afraid of
Dad,
you
got to hear this new band, or this new, like, or they talk to me about their friends, or like they're having problems, and I'm like, it took me a lot to talk to my parents about something, and I was always like, oh my God, am I going to get in trouble? There was like a disconnect there, but then there wasn't the crazy disconnect that was between my parents and their parents, which is even more, where they would find out stories about their parents. Like when my mom was 60, she was finding things out about my grandma, and like all of those kind of things. And now I'm like, I do feel like the good thing maybe about social media is that we're all kind of looking at the same. I mean, I'm not looking at TikTok, but like, I know the references for the, like, modern culture. And if I don't know them, I can just look them up, and I can just, like, we're kind of starting to play with the same information as the kids. And I think that potentially, I think that will be a positive thing, because there will be an understanding between generations, where it's not like this big, huge, like, I'm cut off because I don't have the same understanding, or my parents, like, I don't understand skateboarding. I don't understand, whatever. It's like, I don't know, whatever that thing is you're doing, I don't get it. So that separates us. And I think that the difference now is that I don't feel all that separated culturally from, like, even middle school kids. Like, when they talk about stuff, I pretty much know what they're talking about.
But what about 20-year-olds?
I don't know any 20-year-olds.
Exactly.
We'll see.
Right.
I'll tell you in like 5 years.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, we did not really hit on Tim Showalter and Strand of Oaks that much.
By the way, Strand of Oaks, awesome band. I've never heard them before, but I was listening to those songs and I was like, oh, this is like really great classic, like singer-songwriter, beautiful music. And then that new record is a trip.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going out there.
I like that he brought it up, and it was like his like personal journey, and you're like, yep, because I hear keyboards. It's always like the personal, like, you know what, I'm gonna do a crazy thing, and then you hear them like, wow, and I'm like, ooh, I'm
synthesizers.
in. Here. Where's this going? Okay, I'm like, this is put my hands together, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna listen to this one. Yeah, it was good. It was trippy. It was fun.
Oh, it's awesome. Cool. Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks, Tim, for coming on the show. That was really fun. I think he was recommended to me through the Bothering the Band folks when
that's
I had
awesome.
them on for
Yeah.
their big anniversary show. And I noticed that Bothering the Band is now part of the Ruinous Media Network.
Amazing.
Hopefully
Very
that'll be
cool.
good for them and kind of have more resources, and we're welcome to the team. Bothering the Band, it makes sense. It's good to see good people under the same umbrella
Yeah,
doing good work.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. And I
all right,
can't
well, I
wait
don't
for
know.
your Disney podcast. But I
I
do.
know. Yeah, we got.
I'm looking at the time now. I'm like, I have to go run to a soccer tournament.
Yes.
So
Go get it. Yeah. Yep. Well, I'll be back on Thursday, and then I will see you next Monday. I don't know who's coming up. I gotta make those
Awesome.
decisions.
I'm
I
excited.
got a couple good ones. It'll
right.
be a good one. All right, man. All right, I'll see you.
All right. Later.
Have a good week.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.